Good morning. This is Monday with Friday, wishing for you a good year ahead. Last week I said I'll see you next year, but in this episode, next year is already on my mind and quite relevant. With a new year 2 days away, a story comes to my mind. It is an episode about at least a dozen men on one side of a large lake being invited by a 13th man to go over to the other side of the lake. They all got into a boat to make the journey, and no sooner had they embarked on the journey, something arose, whether a water spout or a tornado or a freak storm or a hurricane. Whatever it was, it threatened to demolish the boat and kill the men. One of the men, fast asleep in the back of the boat and apparently missing all the action, is frantically awakened by all the others. He awakens, and in the biblical account of this episode, he, a man named Jesus, speaks to the water and the wind, settles them back down to calm, and they all proceed on their journey safely to the other side. For any of you who possess no religious faith, I have no answer to your question about what exactly transpired with this speaking to the wind and waves and making them calm down. I want instead to direct our attention more to the what rather than the how, for the purposes of navigating the transition from an old year into a new year. In the year ahead, I encourage us to get set to go over to the other side. Life is like an ocean, a vast expanse of more than meets the eye at the surface. We are never quite sure how cold or hot, how deep or shallow, how calm or rough the proverbial and figurative waters might be. And we never know what is buried or submerged beneath the surface until we hit it like the Titanic did. But we must cross that ocean of life. We must get into a boat and move. Some move through this water of life by motors in huge and expensive yachts, as it were. They are the ones we call the 1%, the rich, whose wealth is more than they could ever use or exhaust in their life, even if they lived to 200 years. Most of the rest of us move through those waters of life, as it were, by simple rustic rowboats, broken and leaking and messed up. And yet, some others are thrown overboard in those waters of life, and they must swim, and some drown. And it is no secret that hurricanes are no respecter of vessels, no matter the size, no matter how rich and ornate, and wealth is no guarantor of prolonged life. But I wish to flood your mind with the invitation to and prospect of going over to the other side. What's the other side of where you are in life? It may not be the same thing for you as it is for me. What do you expect in this journey? Who are your travel companions? Who or what are you going to be required to leave behind, since in the biblical text, the travelers did leave others behind? Who or what should you not take into the new year? And the opposite question is also needful. Who shall you take with you into that boat into the new year? In the biblical story, it is not only that there were other people in the same boat with those 13 men. No, there were other boats in that same ocean. In the biblical story, the 12 men who were wide awake during that storm or hurricane or whatever it was, they were mortally petrified. Most of them were experienced seafarers, so it had to be a particularly bad storm and situation, and yet they came through safely. They were chastised by the 13th man for allowing fear to replace their faith. And that is the message I wish to leave with you here, fewer than 48 hours away from a new year. A year in which fare is promised to be plentiful, exacted by brutal, abusive, and unprincipled men who bomb their neighbors on Christmas Day, who use power to break people, demolish institutions, divide families, and crush dreams. But you must never let them break your hope or your courage, and you must never try to shut up people who try to warn you about the dangers of those wicked men. If your journey through to the other side of this ocean of life is a faith response, a journey of faith in more than only yourself, then you're set to get to the other side. Every now and again, I reference my very first episode of Monday with Friday. This is the 178th. But in that first episode, never intending to make these monologues sermons for Christians, but thoughtful discourses for a wider audience, I said that we all live by faith. Some of us live by what I call reflexive faith, wherein we trust things, we trust systems, we trust that which we can see or presume or take for granted. Some others of us live by what I call reflective faith, based on reflection and meditation on more than the natural and more than the human and more than what meets the eye. Crossing this ocean of life, traveling to the other side, requires both kinds of faith, for there are many things we cannot see and cannot control, and that is when we shall need reflective faith on which to lean and trust that something or someone beyond ourselves will miraculously calm the storms and waters and tamp down our fear when we need calm the most. We Christians call it faith in Jesus Christ. Now, on the other side of 2024 is 2025. Let's go over. Expect rough seas. Expect badness. But expect to survive if you would trust in one beyond yourself who manages, even if inexplicably, many things beyond our natural control. I am Michael Friday, and your week just got better. I'll see you again next year. Happy Monday all the way to Friday.